Yo.
What up? How you been?
Good, man. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Happy New Year.
Yeah, the break has been good. It's over now, though.
Yeah,
Just for
mine too.
us.
It was much needed. But yeah, we started back on Monday.
Oh, even the Collegium?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I didn't get in, although I took an extra day, 2 days, I guess. I didn't get back till Wednesday. But I'm not teaching anything right now for the January term is an intensive for something else. So
it is not as intensive, you said?
It's an intensive for another. So they're just during the January term. They're just taking one. They're actually just taking biology.
Oh.
For like the next 3 weeks.
Oh, you have a January term.
Yes.
Now I see.
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird. Why'd
it's
you
not,
do that?
Yeah, it's not something I'm used to, but it seems to be much more common where my boss is from. So he was like, "Why wouldn't we do this? Everybody else does this." And it's like, "Well, I've never
maybe
been
because rest is good for the soul or something." I don't know.
It's like I've never been anywhere where they did something like this, but hey. Although UST had something like a winter term, but it was an option.
Only lately. They didn't do it at first, and then they started doing it later.
Yeah, but even still, it was just an optional thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yours is mandatory, huh?
Oh, yeah. This is just part of like the regular semester.
All right, so I'm at my new setup.
Dude, I
see. I'm using my actual webcam, and I'm not on my phone.
Nice.
Now, I'm watching my data. I'm on the hotspot, and if it starts going up too fast, I'm going to switch back to the phone.
Okay.
But for now, we'll see. I was able to upgrade, actually. Verizon offered me, I could go from 30 to 50 gigs on the hotspot for another $10. I was like, okay, that's worth it. So I'll take that. So we'll see.
I had the hotspot.
If I drop like a gig or two on these once a week, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
No.
Yeah, I had the hotspot for just a little bit when I first got here because oh yeah, I think I told y'all about that. Like my apartment in this side of the building wasn't wired for internet access. So when I moved in and I called like the technicians and they're showing up, they're like, yeah, there's nothing to hook up. So while the building had to like correct that, I got the hotspot on my phone for a bit. It worked all right. So although I pretty much streamed so much I like burned through my 50 gigs in like a day and a half.
Yeah, you can't.
You only got it for like the whole month, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's good though. It's fast enough. What you drinking?
I've got so this is a maple cinnamon black key.
Damn.
So I'm using the 1792 and the Flor de Caña, the 18 year Caña. 1792 bourbon, the maple cinnamon syrup, and actually for Christmas, my mom got me some Woodford Reserve bourbon cherries and actually some orange bitters. So I'm kind of like just checking it out. And I did a mix of the regular bitters and like just a couple drops of the orange bitters to see. It's working all right.
Sounds good. My coffee is 100% Arabic, Kroger brand.
Nice. Why are you drinking coffee tonight?
Some nights are coffee nights. I literally just had a nap. Now it's coffee.
I haven't had a nap since I got back, but I have been drinking. I didn't drink coffee during the break, but I am drinking coffee now. I had some earlier today.
My sleep schedule's all messed up. I was I've come close to fixing it once or twice and then just messed it up again. Pete,
what's up, man?
What is up, dude?
Happy New Year, sir.
Oh, same to you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas indeed.
Dang, Pete, it's been a while.
Yeah, likewise.
Oh yeah, Pete was here last time, Joe. Somebody.
I know.
when it was your idea. I'm still.
It was. Yeah. I don't know. I just forgot.
That's all right.
So you got some snow. I didn't realize you got snow in Tennessee.
We don't usually. That's why it's so bad when we do. We don't have any equipment for it. They didn't salt anything. You know, they might have plows, but you know, my brother-in-law works for the police department, and the plows are supposed to be out, and nobody knew where they were. So that's how it goes.
They were out making like.
I would have thought though, being just where Tennessee's located, I know. Yeah, I wouldn't expect y'all like you get snow all the time, but I would expect that. I would have thought it's still kind of not
maybe
irregular.
Once or twice a year.
Yeah,
maybe.
Like, okay, that's
and like yeah,
it's
and
more
when
than I expected.
And when you
like
get
Texas.
it's like an inch.
Yeah,
like we got hit this first snow of the year, and it's like 5 inches, and
Wow.
we're just yeah.
Well, that was part of that.
Stuck.
There was that big storm that was kind of coming across, right? I think that's what we got last night. I think that was last night. We started dumping. We got about 3 inches.
Yeah,
overnight.
Up there, I'm sure you probably get more than that all the time.
Yeah, I was looking at the forecast. It's supposed to snow again on Sunday. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see.
Well, I actually have this special arrangement where I can smoke in this room, so I'm probably gonna.
Oh,
nice.
Man, I gotta get an arrangement like that.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's an apartment where there's nothing against smoking in like the lease or anything, and there's like one smoke detector in the hallway or something.
Nice. That's
And
great.
Like, crack the windows open and have a little fan going gently, and
Joe's familiar with that setup.
seems to work pretty well.
Well, he's talking about the ceiling fan,
Well, okay.
not the box fan in the window.
That was pretty dope though.
Yeah, dude, that got me through. I don't smoke when it's cold out, so I haven't
I thought that
smoked
was
in
like
a
your
while.
favorite smoking time.
No, that's what everybody else says. Oh, I love smoking when it's cold out, and I say, no, you don't. Stop lying. You know, nobody does this. No, that's why Texas was so great for smoking. That's why I became such a chimney down there. It's like every day I'm like, wow, it'd be a great day to go outside and smoke something.
Just like yesterday.
Julian, what's up?
What is up, sir?
Not much.
I see you have your water. Neat.
Yeah.
I like water on the rocks, personally. Like Scotland.
I might get some whiskey later. I got some Woodford, but I don't have a lot of mixers anymore, do I? I'm sure I have maple syrup laying around.
I'm telling you, that's just all I use now.
It's perfect every time.
Maple cinnamon simple syrup. I don't use.
Oh,
regular
Pete,
simple
look
syrup
at
anymore.
you, man.
Well, would it be Friday night without any tobacco?
What a boss.
Questionable.
Yeah, I agree. It is questionable.
Yeah, we haven't had anybody smoke on stream yet, so it's about time.
Did you guys get anything exciting from your students for Christmas?
Exciting?
From students? All I got from students was cookies and whatnot.
Yeah.
I also got cookies, and then 2 students, sisters.
Is there something you should say online?
That's right. This could be used against you in legal proceedings later.
Yeah. Remember, there's also an FBI guy here. He's just not on screen.
But he's listening. The van is right out there.
Well, I feel like I'm already too deep into it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll say a word.
So this is something exciting.
Throw it in the private chat, and we'll see if it's suitable.
The private chat get recorded?
Use code.
No. The private chat is just us.
Okay, the private chat. That sounds good.
Use the secret voice code.
Yeah. Write it in Latin. No one will be able to read it but us. Well, I won't be able to read it, but these other guys.
Oh, really? They gave you that?
Yeah, dude.
How old were they?
You can say that. You can say that.
You can say that.
That came from parents.
Yeah, that's from parents. That's
Yeah.
Surely it's from
yeah.
parents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Single malt Scotch, Glenlivet.
That's some good
pretty
stuff.
exciting. It also came with, a set with those 2 little mini.
Oh, nice little gift set.
Too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Glasses and stuff.
That is
not
exciting.
glasses, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I was not. It's a little. My roommate and I have been like pondering about it because, we were the only ones who got Glenlivet, or single malt Scotch. All the other teachers either got wine, or there were 2 other teachers who got Scotch, but it was Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark was Scotch?
Yeah. You sure?
Surely it was bourbon.
Yeah.
Maker's Mark is.
I don't.
But anyway, that doesn't.
Yeah, it was. Maker's Mark is bad enough. It doesn't matter what it was.
But we got Glenlivet, and we don't know if that means something or not.
Dude, that's some good stuff. Glenlivet's.
Yeah, I like Glenlivet. Is it the 12-year bottle or what is it?
I think it's more than 12.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that's really good then.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I got for my students, like pizza. I just got some candies and that was it. I just got some candies.
Sort of stuff. Gift cards. I got some gift cards for places.
No, yeah, it is 12, but then the little ones are 15 and 14.
Oh, nice. Get a little taste of those too, huh?
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. You can do like a little flight. Get 3 little glasses. And
I like the 12-year. The 12-year is what I got for if I ever just wanted something that I knew I was gonna like. Glenlivet 12 was it.
That's what my boy used to drink when I was with him. He had Glenlivet 12-year, and so I said, that's just fantastic. I still prefer the Macallan, but you can't say the Glenlivet's not good.
Right.
So, how was Christmas for everybody? It's our first stream of the new year. First time I seen you guys.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. I was in Houston.
Oh, nice.
It was 85 degrees on Christmas.
Yeah. I was with my folks in Florida. It was about 80, 81. I was miserable.
It was 70 up here in Tennessee even. I felt great. I don't understand any of these complaints at all, dude.
Yeah, I mean, either. It was only like negative 11 minutes.
That's awful. Is it really that cold out there?
Most of the time. What was that?
Is it really that cold out there? Negative 11, or are you exaggerating?
No,
I was gonna say, dude,
negative 11. Yeah.
Yeah, remember we were out there like a month earlier in November, and the high was like 10 that day or whatever it was.
We were in Colorado.
No, Julian was home
for the ACPA.
Wow, I have no memory of this.
Are you kidding me, dude? My mom made you roast pork.
That's Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah, that's where he was.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry. I was thinking you were in Colorado, so that's where you spent Christmas. Sorry, I missed the connection.
No, I went to
That makes more sense. For Christmas. I know Colorado gets cold, but I wasn't sure what part you were in or what your altitude is and how cold it is right now.
Only thing I saw in Colorado was that it was on fire, or at least Denver.
Yeah, Denver and like the Boulder area. Caught fire a little bit.
You're north there, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty far north. I'm like an hour north of Denver. It's like 22 right now. But earlier this week it was like it was in the single digits. Colorado. Yeah, well, yeah, it's weird because in Colorado the snow doesn't like stick around because it'll be like 5 degrees one day and then like 32 the next, which is what happened actually like yesterday and today. And as a result, what I found anyway is that they don't really like very thoroughly plow the roads. Because because it'll just melt the next day. So, yeah, getting to work yesterday was a bit of a nightmare. I spun out and like fishtailed a couple times.
But at least it's not like you went the wrong way down a one-way street or anything.
Yeah, you never do that.
Yeah.
Especially not in your hometown.
No,
roads you're familiar with.
Yeah.
How far away from like how far do you usually have to drive for work? Like,
it ranges from like 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so a little bit of a ways. Yeah, it's dangerous driving on roads like that.
Yeah, sucks.
It's the same way in Tennessee. They just don't. Whenever it happens, they don't do anything with it. And when it hovers around freezing, that's the worst time because it will snow and melt and then freeze.
And I saw yesterday. I was going out and they had already salted everything before the snow came down, and then they had all the trucks out last night with the big, whatever they are, like the big snowplow trucks were already parked on all the neighborhood corners. So I mean, like the streets have been clear all day. So I mean, I don't have to drive, but
yeah, that's nice. Are you keeping your car, or where'd you fall on that?
My car's in. Oh yeah, I keep my car. I drive. I don't know all last semester. I think I drove a total of like 6 times. But no, I keep my car in the parking garage at the University of Maryland. Yeah.
Do you have to pay for that?
Yeah, there's a monthly charge. It's not too bad though.
Oh well.
So it's worth it. I mean, just to keep it wouldn't be worth it selling my car, I don't think. Not to mention, in the move, I lost the title to the car, so I actually couldn't sell it even if I wanted to. So I still have to call down to the OMV in Louisiana, and it's like, yeah, I need a duplicate, and then all that nonsense. So.
Yeah, I don't even know the procedure for that.
The Office of Motor Vehicles, there's like a form when you lose, that you have to fill out all of this stuff, and plus there's a fee involved and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, usually the title lists previous owners, right? So I guess you're the only person who's
I'm the only owner.
I always get used cars with like 3 other names I'd have to have memorized, I guess. Yeah.
Well, what's the thing that's really burning me up about this ever since I started looking for it is I remember the day I got the title. I remember when I made that last payment on it and I owned that car. I got the notice that I owned the car and that the title was in the mail, and I remember getting it. I was like, yes. And I put it right in that black filing cabinet.
Oh, you paid it off while you were up there? No. Okay.
No, when I was in
Yeah. I get it.
And I was at Gulfton when I paid it off. It was like the first year I was there, though. And I put it right in that filing cabinet. I'm telling you, I went through everything when it got up here, and nothing. Can't find it. So,
dang.
Yeah, it pissed me off. So that's on my to-do list for this month, is to work that out with Louisiana, get my duplicate title back.
You look like you got really high ceilings in there, Phil.
Yeah, what is I don't know, what is that, about 12 feet?
It looks like it. Because I know how high your bookshelf is, and your bookshelf is dwarfed by that wall.
Yeah. The bookshelf's like 6 foot.
Yeah.
So that's a 10 or 12 foot ceiling.
And Pete, I noticed your like couch or futon back there is wrapped in plastic. Is that part of the deal?
It's a compromise because I guess fabrics can absorb smoke, smell. So I just throw it on, when I'm gonna light up, take it off. It's pretty easy.
Good.
Yeah, fabrics will trap smoke, I think.
Yeah, they will.
So, although I have to say, I think in all honesty, like y'all would know this more than me because I don't smoke. But I'm pretty sure, like if somebody is like smokes and they smoke in like their leather chair, like Pete, after about like 5 years, I'm sure I could go sit in that chair that you're sitting in and be like, a smoker used to sit in this chair, like a pipe smoker or whatever. Like I think it just the smoke just gets in anything.
Yeah.
But some things you can just clean it or wipe it off. I don't know.
It would have to get past the leather to the foam underneath it for it to be a problem. You'd have to smoke pretty heavy, I think, for it to be noticeable. And pipe smoke in general is just not like cigarette smoke.
Yeah, that's how. I wouldn't complain if it was like a pipe smoke smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely much more pleasant than cigarettes.
That's like Febreze. You
yeah,
just not buy a Febreze and just smoke in whatever chair you need to freshen up.
I find that's perfectly acceptable.
Take a shit, smells pretty bad.
Just better smoke in here. That's better.
That's right. Who needs a mat? You can just smoke while you're sitting there, like, you know. And...
yeah, nice and smoky.
I still need to get a frame for my picture of Darth Vader on the toilet. That needs to be hung in the bathroom. It's on the windowsill in there, but it needs to go on the wall.
Definitely.
All right.
Oh man, Pete, how are you and Anne-Marie doing over there?
Doing pretty well. Yeah, we've got actually kind of a lot of good friends we've made out here.
Good. How?
That's good.
That's curious, actually.
Joe needs to make some friends.
I got old friends, but I think if I were to move to a new place, I'd have a hard time meeting people.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're not necessarily good at meeting people, but I mean, through the Lyceum.
Oh, yeah.
Friends with pretty much all the other teachers and kind of more especially like 2 or 3 of them. And then also Anne-Marie has this kind of like family connection here.
Right. Yeah.
And so she's really become friends with this, we've become friends with this couple that were friends with Anna Langley, who's a cousin. Anyway, there's different ways that it happened, but we just met a lot of good people. And yeah, and like we'll have a game night sometimes on Tuesdays and we'll just
cool
go and play board games or whatever.
Yeah, very nice.
Good.
That's great. That's good.
Are most of the other oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, Pete, that I learned that Mark Langley is now the headmaster of a New Chesterton over here in Colorado Springs.
Right.
Yeah.
I emailed him.
A buddy of mine from.
Yeah, I need to call.
Yeah, a buddy of mine from Benedictine is actually the treasurer on the board, so he tells me all about it.
Is it a lucrative position? To tell you that much?
I don't know. He doesn't tell me that much.
Okay. Julian, what you eating these days, man? Besides
well,
toast,
this is the whole thing over
toast.
until I go to Chipotle after this.
Okay, all right, good.
Because there's a Chipotle like 2 minutes from my apartment.
Oh, nice.
That is good. It's good and bad.
It's bad for all the good reasons.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
Well, I got questions I could raise, but I think Julie had questions that are probably more pressing than mine.
Yeah. It was on
Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard.
Oh, I forgot about all this.
Yeah. Gotta say, this is a pretty epic cover. I don't know if this was the edition that you guys got.
Oh yeah, that's the one I think.
I don't remember the one I have.
What is making you think about Kierkegaard?
Comps.
Ah, okay, right. Fair enough.
I actually learned that McInerney wrote like his master's thesis on Kierkegaard.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea he had any interest in Kierkegaard, but yeah, apparently he did.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, the Wongs are actually like the name in Kierkegaardian scholarship. They've done they've translated most of his works. They're at
the Wongs.
The Wong. I think they're Howard and Edna. I'm pretty sure that they're married. I guess.
Hong. Okay. Is it pronounced Wong?
Hong. You know, don't ask me why I saw a W there. Okay.
Okay, I won't.
Yeah, you're right. That's wrong. But anyway, I just know that most of the editions
names are the same.
Yeah, it all looks the same. It all looks the same to me. You know, Julian Hong, all the it's all the same. It's all the same to me. But actually, no. Most of the Kierkegaard editions I have are translated by them. But anyways, I'm pretty sure I did one of my essays on this. Let me see if I can't pull it up.
Yeah, I'm rereading mine now.
I don't reread anything that I write.
Phil, you wrote an essay on Kierkegaard
for comps.
Wait, like for comps?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about outside of comps?
Descartes, Kant.
He's talking about comps.
Comps,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not.
You wrote an essay on Kierkegaard without... Oh, well, okay, never mind.
Without what?
Without having any notes on him? Because you mentioned in the text that you didn't really...
I didn't have notes for anything. I did write Kierkegaard. Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
I don't have notes on really any of the stuff.
I really didn't use notes either.
Yeah.
Except, I think our studying was done in front of Phil's door. I would just go over there and I would smoke, and
we just talked about it. Like we just talked about it over and over until like the ideas were just driven in.
Yep. That's the way to do it too.
Yeah, because I don't. Yeah, I can take notes, but I'm terrible at ever going back to them.
Right. Yeah. They're so time consuming, and it's rare that they pay off for me.
Yeah. I use them almost more as while I'm reading to crystallize my thought into like a sentence, and I don't even go back to it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
I guess it'd be equivalent to talking it over with someone, but I just like, here's my summary of that.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, this is what I'm thinking right now.
Right.
And then I'm never going to look at this again.
Right. Which is why you can do it on paper if you want, because like, just throw it away. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I have, I can even, don't tell anybody, I can pull up the questions.
Ooh, don't tell anybody, he says.
Yeah.
As he's
live on
the whole internet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't tell anybody. I'm certainly not going to show them, but
well, because they actually emailed them out to us this last time.
Yeah, we're not supposed to.
The old questions?
No, I mean that's how we did the comps, is they sent out the questions via email.
Oh, yeah. So everyone has them, right?
So,
sort of understood.
Yeah, I think maybe they're just committed to changing them more thoroughly than.
All right, why do I not have the question for that?
Pete, who was on your board again? Most recently?
Carl.
Oh, here it is.
Carl, Jensen, and Hiddinger. I won't say. Yeah, I don't think Osborne. Osborne was on my first one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It was those. It was a good board. I liked that comps.
That was the question I had. So again, it's not public. Nobody knows I have this. That was the question, and I did.
Yeah,
I answered it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically like an all-encompassing question. Just like explain.
Yeah, it's like the whole book.
Explain what.
Explain.
That's what my essay seems to be doing. Which is probably helpful for Julian if you have general questions, at least.
I mean, if you want to see my essay, I can send it to you, and we can talk about it.
Is there a way to attach? No.
Yeah, I guess I can just.
You can send attachments through Signal, though. Like you could send it you could send it to us as a.
Yeah, I could do that.
Like I have Signal open on my laptop right now.
I would have to get it on my computer. I usually have it on my phone, but I can get it to you guys for sure. Do you want to start talking though, Julian?
Yeah. What do we want to
kind of how far you can get or what your hang up is?
Well, so that actually had how do I put this? One of my main difficulties, just so happens to do with what he means to say that the individual becomes higher than the universal.
Oh, yep. That's yep.
Just so happens.
Yeah.
But actually though, it does, because at first I wasn't sure exactly what he meant by the universal, because he talks about it almost as tantamount to I think what I came up with was that he meant some first ethical principles, or maybe not first ethical principle, but just ethical principles in general.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this first comes up in Problema 2, when the question is, was Abraham justified in fully intending to murder his son?
You should just write about how Abraham is a murderer, and wonder what they would even do.
Father Salzillo might have something to say about that.
Oliva might, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, isn't there a passage in Kierkegaard about a priest who preaches about Abraham, and then some guy in the congregation rushes out and is going to kill his son or something?
Yeah.
Towards the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think he says if you were to actually preach what the message is here, then and you can't, and so that's why everybody says something else about Abraham, right? They water it down. They say, oh, Abraham knew, right? Abraham knew this wasn't what God wanted, or something like that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So does he just mean that Abraham in his faith was subordinating himself to principles that were beyond reason, or something like that?
They're certainly beyond reason. Yeah.
Essay or something, or beyond I don't know, common human ethical principles.
The universal wasn't higher than reason.
Correct.
It was the leap of faith that takes you beyond reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's the ethical principle here is that you shouldn't murder your son, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in faith, the individual can go higher than or beyond that kind of principle.
Yeah, that's certainly in there. I remember Dr. Oliva pointing this out, where the man of the universal, the ethical man, renounces his individual particular goods, mm-hmm. right, in order to pursue what is good universally. The man of faith actually has the audacity to go after his particular goods, right? But not in a way that is temptation,
mm-hmm.
right? I don't understand exactly what that means, but I remember her talking about that. I'm reading what I had to say about it before, back when I understood this.
Yeah, there's something very particular, though, about the fact that this is a relationship of faith, that puts the individual. So Kierkegaard's the thing was that the individual is lost in the universal, just in the ethical demand. It's kind of categorically binding upon everybody, and in that sense, it's so it's this universal, and you lose your individuality. But he's the relationship with God kind of exalts the individual again. And this, I guess, is kind of related maybe to that question, wouldn't it, that Rod's been thinking about, is could God grant exceptions to the ethical, or to the natural law, right? So could God ask you then to murder your son, and you'd be yeah, I've got to do this.
Yeah, it does have to do with exceptions to the ethical, but not exceptions in the sense that they contradict, right? They're actually, I think for Kierkegaard, a sort of higher fulfillment of the ethical. But listen to this line that I wrote. Faith, however, is to resign the particular and to simultaneously, paradoxically, and only by having faith in the absurd, to receive the particular back again. It is not a movement that can be explained rationally, but only shown.
Wow.
That has to be
Soren,
true, right?
it's
Whatever
like
he's
you,
trying
man.
to say isn't
Good
something you
honor.
can rationally explain, because what you can explain rationally is only the universal and the ethical.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, okay. I thought we lost Julian for a second.
I feel like
Yep.
they're
So,
losing you.
Yeah, you're. I don't know. Pete, Julian, is Joe a little behind for you guys?
Yeah, and he's all blurry too.
Okay. I didn't know if it was just me.
well, my internet sucks.
Yeah,
so.
like we can hear you, and then your voice, and then your mouth moves. Like,
But is it that way when I'm on my phone?
this is the first time I'm noticing it.
Well, I might switch to the phone then.
It's not a super big deal.
All right.
But
it's the best I can do right now.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at least in my essay, I kind of Joe, everything you said, that sounds right to me. Most of my essay circles around because I framed it in the context of his existentialism and the notion of just the individual, like the experience of the individual and his individual relationship with God. And so I framed it in that way, but that was an excellent summary you just gave.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Pete, what you think?
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
Pete's like, I was smart enough not to write on Kierkegaard.
No, I wasn't that smart. Sorry, I kind of lost track a little bit. What do I think about what?
We were just kind of talking about, at least in Kierkegaard, the relationship of the individual to universal ethical claims.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything truly sparkling to add, but the universal, what can be expressed through reason as a universal sort of precept, and then but the individual has access to this kind of higher kind of command or this higher kind of rule or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's an exception, and so that's how Abraham can get around the ethical commands without necessarily breaking them per se.
And that was kind of why I think I phrased my essay in terms of the existentialism, because something like that can only be grounded then in like your direct experience of like God coming down, talking to you. Like I have no grounds for transcending the ethical. Like I know I shouldn't kill my children unless, like, to me, God comes down from heaven and I just get this, like, divine revelation that this is something that God wants, and he is commanding me to do this. Not anybody else, just me and in my relationship with God. And that's kind of like the central existentialist perspective. I
think we should be a little careful. I don't think that we want to import Thomism at all here. And I think our point of departure for Kierkegaard is Kant's ethics.
Some Thomism?
I think the key, I think what's maybe underneath Kierkegaard is like when Kant wants you to put the brakes on metaphysics, right? When he's like, you start reasoning about these things, stop, you can't do that. You're going to lead to contradictions and you need to just back off. I think Kierkegaard is doing something similar with ethics here, where if you try to reason about this true proposition that Abraham is a good man, you can't, right? It's going to lead to a contradiction with the ethical. Mm-hmm. But the truth has to be that he in fact is, even though it's not something you're going to be able to explain.
Yeah. But
right?
I think that only makes sense. And I think Kierkegaard presents it this way, or at least as I've always read him, even in his other works. Like it's not something that, like you're right that it's not something that's rationally expressible. but it becomes intelligible to the knight of faith. Remember, the knight of faith can't explain himself to anyone else, even another knight of faith. Right? What he's doing is unintelligible to anybody else, but I think it makes sense in his own journey based on his direct experience.
One thing is
God,
that
right?
rationalization, right? To try to rationalize. If Abraham was to try to rationalize his own position,
yeah. No, he can't do that.
To make it intelligible. You're talking about it being intelligible to him. I don't think.
I guess what I mean by intelligible then is like he knows in his experience that God has commanded me to do this, and so whatever else I think about the ethical, if God is commanding me to do this, it must be like I have to do it.
Yeah, I don't think that means it's intelligible.
Sure. Okay. Then all right.
Yeah,
insofar as if by intelligible you mean I know the reason for, then that's right.
Okay.
But still, like why he's doing. If you say like Abraham, why are you about to kill your kid? And you'd be like, God told me to. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't know what I say to that, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like. Although Joe, you were totally right also to bring out the concept of the absurd. That's actually kind of integral into this.
Yeah, faith in the absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had an easier time understanding or having some kind of understanding of what he meant by infinite resignation than I did.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's rational.
I can't remember. Does like I feel like I remember Kierkegaard saying that Abraham that it would water down Abraham's experience if we were to say that like that he didn't go through any kind of like inner turmoil, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something a lot of people want to say too. That he had so much confidence in God that he's like, yeah, no, it's gonna be fine. I was like, yeah, I don't need to worry about anything.
Yeah, and the anguish he was going through was the temptation to be ethical and rational.
Yeah,
right.
That's one of the things.
That's the crazy thing about it, right?
He's like,
the very temptation is to be an ethical person.
That's what it is, right? We're tempted to rationalize this.
Yeah.
Kierkegaard's whole point in The Fear and Trembling is that you can't rationalize away Abraham. You actually have to confront that what he's doing is unethical. But it's something. But in a way, it's higher than that.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the work is that you have to just deal with this.
Yeah.
I realized now I remember why I wrote the essay on this was because I actually did a paper on Kierkegaard when I was at Tulane, but that work was I did the philosophical fragments and the sickness unto death. And I did a paper on those two works. So I was like, yeah, Fear and Trembling, why not? And that's why I
Yeah. If you guys wanted to send me your essays, that'd be pretty dope.
For sure.
I think the last problema actually gave me, I think, the most trouble, where he's talking about whether, I mean, it seems like you would think that he's asking the same question but in a different way. Hold on. What is the... Well, anyway, he talks about concealment and whether it was right or whether it would have been right for Abraham to conceal his intentions from Sarah, Eleazar, and Isaac. And
definitely the part I understood the least as well.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on, because he gives these three like images or like these three like stories, two of which I think are, or maybe all three of them are like modified from old legends or something. and they did not help me at all.
Yeah, the different renditions of the Abraham story always confuse me. They still do. What part of the work is this?
This is the last problema before the epilogue.
Okay. So number 3.
Yeah. So one example of one of these stories is the Tobias story.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm remembering now. Okay, keep talking.
And I have here written in my notes that the poets prefer Tobias because, right, they see it as so great that that his first instinct, unlike all the 7 husbands who came before him, would be to kneel down and pray with his wife. Right? They emphasize that part. They say how that's such a wonderful thing. But Kierkegaard says, as great as he was just doing what anyone should do. He was just doing what was ultimately just expected of him. There's nothing special about it. And so Kierkegaard prefers to exalt Sarah.
Yeah. Because she's the one who gets married over and over again, knowing this would happen, right? But she's got to have faith in the absurd or something that this is going to work out somehow.
Yeah.
Right? Even though the ethical thing would be to lock herself away and never touch a man, right? She's like, no, I'm going to get married and it's going to work somehow.
That's why I'm still on Catholic Match.
Faith in the absurd.
Faith in the absurd. It's going to work out. All right, I see.
Yeah, so he says...
one of the things, not to interrupt real quick, I always thought this was a really interesting... This has no bearing on your question, but Kierkegaard phrases this as, he says, she's unhappier than anyone else, for she knows that the evil demon who loves her will kill her bridegroom on the wedding night. And I just always thought that was really interesting that Kierkegaard phrases that way. That the demon that's killing all of her husbands is because the demon is in love with her. And I was like, that, you don't usually think about it that way. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he says, no, Sarah is the heroine. For what love for God it takes to want to be healed when one has been crippled from the start for no fault of one's own, an unsuccessful specimen of humanity from the very beginning. I underlined that mostly because I didn't understand what that meant.
Can you read it again?
Do you know which? Yeah. I don't see that part. I know we have different editions.
So I actually skipped a sentence when I said that. But so he says, no, Sarah is the heroine. Her I would like to draw close to, as I have drawn close to no other girl or been tempted to draw close in thought to anyone of whom I've read. For what love for God it takes to want to be healed when one has been crippled from the start for no fault of one's own, an unsuccessful specimen of humanity from the very beginning. What ethical maturity to take on the responsibility of allowing the loved one such an act of daring. What humility before another person. What faith in God that in the next instant she should not hate the man to whom she owed everything.
Isn't that because of her trusting in the absurd? That Kierkegaard's that's the reason he says, she's the one I want to approach or draw near.
Yeah.
It's all of those are rhetorical questions, right? What love for God it must take to be willing to itself be healed, when from the very beginning, one in all innocence has been bought. Yeah. Isn't this almost like a wish? Like he would that he could trust in God so much?
So I think that the point of emphasis here in this paragraph is that Tobias is the ethical man. He's willing to lay down his particular good, right? But she, beyond the ethical, is not laying down her particular good, but has the audacity to seek it. Yeah, exactly, right? What love of God that requires, right? Not to give of herself, but to be willing to receive this particular good back again.
Yeah. Thus, again, raising her private good above the universal good.
Yeah. What ethical maturity.
Yeah. And so is he just saying that doing so has to be like praiseworthy to some extent, insofar as it's done in the face of the absurd or out of faith?
Can I ask go ahead.
I was just going to ask that again. I think I heard, but I might have lost something.
So is Kierkegaard just saying that like putting your particular good above the common, or above the universal here, must be like seen as praiseworthy or something,
when it's done in
like
faith.
insofar as it's done in faith or in the face of the absurd, or whatever, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Joe, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up. I don't remember. Was Sarah commanded by God to marry Tobit? Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, I was nodding at something.
Oh, okay.
Pizza. No. Sarah's not commanded by God.
Yeah, I remember that.
The story is, God bless my tragic life, because I just reread this. No. What happened? So the way that the book of Tobit is set up is they both kind of offer their pleas to God. It presents it kind of like separate from each other and across the two different cities they live in, but they both offer up their prayers to God kind of simultaneously. Tobit, in his kind of, because he's just been blinded, that bird crapped in his eyes, and he's like, what's going on? And then Sarah, the story kind of jumps from him. That's what happens. He falls asleep outside, and this bird poops in his face.
Imagine that.
Do you remember when we were out?
Yes.
Imagine that God willed that be how that is worded in the scriptures.
My ways are higher than your ways.
And so kind of like right at that moment, Sarah has just like killed her seventh husband or whatever number she was on. And she does try to lock herself away. She actually, like, she goes up to her room for, it's like 3 days, and she doesn't eat, she doesn't sleep, but she like weeps before God and prays. And her prayer is very similar to Tobit's, but the gist of it is like, I would rather die than to continue on in this way. And then it's like, if God, this is how you're going to like treat me, then like just take me now, let it be done with. And then that's when the rest of the story comes over. So yeah, God doesn't command her to marry him, but in the context of the story, that's when he sends Tobias out on his journey, that in Providence he will meet Sarah, and then Raphael kind of match makes them together.
Well, what matters is if she's not commanded to marry Tobit, then this is not a book about divine command exceptions. This is about just faith in the absurd, which might include divine command, or just having faith in God that you're going to get all of your particular goods
Well, here, what's interesting, though, at least in the book of Tobit, is like, because she does express that same reservation. She's like, you know, if we get married, like, you're going to die too. And Raphael's just right there. He's like, I got the cure. It's like, you know, bake you some fish guts and whatever. And it's like,
Tobit.
You know.
I got to reread Tobit, man. It sounds so.
It's a pretty good one.
Interesting.
Bake you some fish guts. I'm going to get you a guy with shit in his eyes.
This is the guy shit in his eyes' son. That's how this
okay.
His eyes, son.
But it's Raphael though that steps. It's him who tells her, right, the kind of like, no, have faith, do this, and the demon will be cast away. But so like there is that element of like you're gonna have to trust me on this, but do this, and you're gonna be all right.
So are we? What I'm wondering is the night of faith, is that something that everybody can aspire to, or do you have to be called to that? Right? Do you have to be called to some particular situation where you can have faith in the absurd?
I think you would have to be, wouldn't you?
Because I remember that other part where he's talking about like what the model night of faith would look like and how he's just walking around. He's like so happy for everything, and he goes home and his wife cooks him the same bland food, and he's like, "Oh, this is great," or whatever. I don't remember all the details, you know.
Yeah, but on the outside, he just seems like an ordinary guy, right?
Yeah, but he's like,
he's just a little like weirdly happy about things that.
Yeah, he's like unafflicted.
He's resigned.
Yeah, he's resigned in like every way, though. It's not like the monastic who's whipping himself or whatever. He's living
whatever
his
will be
life, you know, like an ordinary person, because he's getting all the ordinary people good things or something.
I still think, but like, yeah, but to really, I don't know. It does seem to be phrased, at least in Kierkegaard, in like the way that everybody should aspire to this. But like, maybe this is his. Maybe
Kierkegaard aspires to it, right? He says,
"Yeah,
I want to draw near to Sarah. She's the hero. If I could be anything like her, that's what I want to be." But I guess it doesn't mean that it doesn't require him to be called to that or something, you know.
I think at some point you still like you do have to. I think you have to be called to something like that. Otherwise. I think that's his point with the, like, if you were to really preach this, then people would just go out and start killing their children. Except, you know, instead of angels stopping people, you'd have a bunch of dead kids around, right? Like most people aren't called to the sacrifice of Abraham, right? Like that.
Yeah. That's why he's the father of the faith, right?
Yeah. Like I really think that that's something you have to be called to in order to have that kind of faith in the absurd. Again, that's the experiential thing. Like I have to be like, dude, God just freaking spoke to me and said that I need to do this. And you then have to trust that that's actually what happened, right?
Though then that makes me wonder why he would write this book.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like I kind of see it on the one hand, he's like, yeah, everybody should aspire to just the what is it? Abandonment to divine providence, right? In the Catholic tradition. You just kind of like let go and let God. I hate that phrase, but that's what people say, right? We all should aspire to that. But if you're going to like sacrifice your child, like God needs to damn well have spoken to you for something like that.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
So I'm really not sure where that's resolved. Like everybody should aspire to this, but it still seems like something you're called to. And I really don't know how it's resolved.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily get the impression that well, yeah, I don't know.
Wasn't there also a problem in Kierkegaard of there being no way for Abraham to reconcile it? Like, well, God, you know, someone maybe following St. Thomas or something would say, well, God has the authority to have anyone killed, including Isaac or anyone. And so if God truly commands that happen, it's all in order. Like there's nothing ethical about that. But Kierkegaard, for some reason, doesn't seem to consider that or to accept that. And so, like, because in order to set up his tension and his paradox, it has to be just unethical and wrong, universally speaking, to sacrifice Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about Sarah? I guess she's the same, right? That she's not. She's. Well, hang on. You said that Raphael promises her that this time her husband won't die if she has faith, right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe there's no tension there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the other example story images that he uses involves a merman, and I that one I had no idea. I could not. That was totally beyond me.
Wait, when you're talking about Sarah, you're talking about
Tobias's Sarah, not Abraham.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Let me reread about the merman.
Yeah, he like seduces some chick or something, and then.
Well, he's a merman. Yeah.
Several different versions of the story.
Yeah.
And like in one of them, he feels sorry.
Oh yeah. That's what happens.
I think that's what contributed to my confusion because.
Right. Well, so the merman, does he want to marry a girl? But if he marries the girl, something bad will happen. Was that it?
Can I read the passage from Tobit? I don't know. Have we moved on too far?
I think merman comes before Tobit.
Okay.
It's still in Problema 3.
Yeah. Agnete. Agnete. Agnete? The name
yeah, the third part is definitely the most difficult.
Yeah, I don't want to get too caught up in the merman because I think one of the other big themes for him was that I didn't really understand was having an absolute relation to the absolute.
Just that. That's
any thoughts on that? Because I did not know what that meant.
I think this is probably wrong, but I think that the Knight of Faith, being above the universal, has, I don't know why you would call him the absolute, but the relation to the absolute, I think, is God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does he phrase it again?
It's like you're related to God solely in the context of your individuality.
Yeah, precisely as individual and not just a member of the species.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, an absolute relationship with the absolute. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Like that, this doesn't say anything more, but I think like that's his description for the one who has transcended the ethical. And so like when the individual has become higher than the universal, that's when he as individual is like purely relate, like just him to God, right? It's this like, I think like that's the description.
Yeah. Comes up in the merman bit.
What was the first one? Yeah.
Where are we now? Are we still what?
I think Joe is trying to find out what he means by absolute relation to the absolute in the merman story.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just reading a paragraph here.
Gotcha. The merman, therefore, cannot belong to Agnes without, after having made the infinite movement of repentance, making one movement more, a movement by virtue of the absurd. He can make the movement of repentance under his own power, but he uses absolutely all his power for it, and therefore cannot possibly come back under his own power and grasp actuality again. If a person does not have sufficient passion to make either of the movements, if he skulks through life repenting of little and thinking everything will come out in the wash, then he has once and for all renounced living in the idea.
He's talking about the demonical paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone remember what that was about? It's some sort of inversion of the act of the Night of Faith, but it's not strictly sin.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I'm looking at it, and I have a lot of like underlines and stuff, but nothing that's helpful.
I don't think my translation uses that phrase, and I have no idea what my translation uses.
The demonic?
That's what mine says.
It comes up a few times, I think. He doesn't just mention it once. It's sort of like it develops it in towards the later end of the book, I remember.
Okay.
Or at least, I don't know, maybe they use a different word besides demon or whatever, but let me see if I can.
Let's see, where's the first time he brings it up?
Demonic. It seems to only come up in the merman thing.
Mm-hmm. He does bring it up. He says, if you imagine Sarah was a man and the demonic enters in, but so he brings it back in the Tobit section. But
where's that? That's what I want.
Oh,
here. Let Sarah be a man.
Yeah. And the demonic is immediately present. No idea.
All right, let me see.
Isn't the demonic like? I think Joe. What'd you say about it not being quite sin, but it was something like,
an inversion of the Night of Faith.
Yeah, but it was something like, it was like I'm saying I'm letting go of all of this, but I'm really not, kind of thing. I'm still trying to hold on to something.
All right, so it only comes up in the third problema, unless it's very early, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think it's only back here.
So the first instance of it, then, I don't have page numbers. I'm on an online source. Let's see. Shortly after he's talking about Euripides' Iphigenia, he says, this is the first time I can find it. In spite of the severity with which ethics requires revelation, it cannot be denied that secrecy and silence really make a man great, precisely because they are characteristic of inwardness. When Amor leaves Psyche, he says to her, "Thou shalt give birth to a child which will be a divine infant if thou dost keep silence, but a human being if thou dost reveal the secret." The tragic hero, who is the favorite of ethics, is the purely human, and him I can understand, and all he does is in the light of the revealed. If I go further, then I stumble upon the paradox, either the divine or the demoniac, for silence is both. Silence is the snare of the demon, and the more one keeps silent, the more terrifying the demon becomes. But silence is also the mutual understanding between the deity and the individual. And then he doesn't talk about it again for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Been on Abraham, poet at Delphi, blah, blah, blah. I will follow this with a sketch which involves the demoniacal. The legend of Agnes and the Merman will serve my purpose. So I guess the point of Agnes and the Merman is to bring out what he means by this demonical influence. So that's the point of the Merman, I guess. Now, in case repentance grips the merman and he remains concealed, he has clearly made Agnes unhappy, for Agnes loved him in all her innocence. She believed that at the instant when even to her he seemed changed, however well he hid it, he was telling the truth and saying that he only wanted to show her the beautiful calmness of the sea. However, with respect to passion, the merman himself becomes still more unhappy, for he loved Agnes with a multiplicity of passions and had beside a new guilt to bear. The demonical element in repentance will now explain to him that this is precisely his punishment for the faults of his pre-existent state, and that the more it tortures him, the better. If he abandons himself to this demonical influence, he then perhaps makes still another attempt to save Agnes in such a way as one can, in a certain sense, save a person by means of the evil. He knows that Agnes loves him. If he could wrest from Agnes this love, then in a way she is saved. But how? The merman has too much sense to depend upon the notion that an open-hearted confession would awaken her disgust. He will therefore try perhaps to incite in her all dark passions. He will therefore try to perhaps to incite in her all dark passions, will scorn her, mock her, hold up her love to ridicule. If possible, he will stir up her pride. He will not spare himself any torment, for this is the profound contradiction in the demoniacal. And in a certain sense, there dwells infinitely more good in a demoniac than in a trivial person. The more selfish Agnes is, the easier the deceit will prove for him. For it is only very inexperienced people who suppose that it is easy to deceive innocence. Existence is very profound, and it is in fact the easiest thing for the shrewd to fool the shrewd. But all the more terrible will be the merman's sufferings. The more cunningly his deceit is planned, the less will Agnes bashfully hide from him her sufferings. She will resort to every means, nor will they be without effect, not to shake his resolution, but to torture him. Right. So if I remember this rightly, this demoniac approach would be, instead of marrying Agnes with faith in the absurd, that somehow he's going to be able to have both her, or he's going to be able to somehow have her. That's the knight of faith. And then if I understand, the ethical would be to just not pursue romance with a land walker if you're a merman. But the demoniac, the demon approach is not just to like deny oneself the girl, but to actually like get the girl to resent you. Right. And so I remember, I think at the very beginning or at one point, he gives like a few retellings of the Abraham story.
He goes on in that next paragraph, though, talking about that the demonic has the same quality as the divine, namely that the single individual is able to enter into an absolute relation to it.
Maybe what you're using evil, right? You're doing bad things to get the girl to hate you so that she won't suffer the fate of dying from being married to a merman. So like if Sarah did something horrible to keep Tobit from marrying her, right? She's not being ethical, but she has like this good intention, right, to save Tobit. And she wants to do it in pure deceit so that Tobit doesn't know, right? She's going to like, who knows? I don't know, something ridiculous. Openly prostitute herself, before, so that Tobit can't have her or won't want her, that he will hate her, so that he will leave, be safe, be happy about it, and she will get to accrue all of the sufferings or something like that. Right? So she's doing something unethical. But like the ethical, she's not, I guess she's doing something unethical, but unlike the Knight of Faith, she's not actually trying to claim the prize or whatever. She's not trying to achieve that particular good, right? She's seeking like the particular good of somebody else, I guess. Maybe she's not even doing that. The only thing that makes sense to me here is that they're using evil, right? You're lying or you're deceiving somehow to keep this person safe. Hang on. Somebody's calling me on Discord.
Okay. But it's, I don't know, lying, or, but I mean, yeah, to keep them safe from what?
Well, whatever the doom is.
Yeah.
Oh, that like if she were to then be with the merman, if Agnes was to be with the merman.
Or Sarah.
So what it reminded me of was in the beginning of Fear and Trembling, he's talking about weaning children, I think.
Yeah.
There's one case where he talks about a woman blackening her breast so that the child won't want it anymore. Right? That sort of thing.
Interesting.
Right? You drive them away.
Yeah. I literally have just written in the margins in these exact paragraphs, what is he talking about?
Yeah. Well, this has been helpful. There was something else, I think something a little more familiar to us that I wanted to go over as well. Namely,
I'm good for it.
Just a couple questions about book 1 of the physics.
Aha. Yes. Back to rationality.
Seriously.
Yeah. So just a few things. Just a couple things. So yeah, I guess first off, is he? So when he makes the claim that the first principles of nature are contraries, does he just come to that from? Does he just come to that like from induction, where, because he says, because he goes through like some of his predecessors, and then there's this paragraph where he says like, so look, it seems that they all agree that the first principles of nature are contraries. Is that his whole argument for that, or am I missing something? Does he give a more, does he do that thing where he just?
So it is induction, right? And I think he does a little bit of dialectical defense.
Yeah.
He talks about like how in chapter 5 that things don't just come from any other thing, but they always pass from like the non-white into the white.
Right.
So there's a little bit more discussion. Let me see. Yeah, he literally just, it's very rhetorical. For how could white come from musical unless musical happened to be an attribute of the non-white or of the black or of some other medium, right?
Yeah. He's also like, this is also the culmination of his going through the opinions of everybody. Like he's already seen them, how, everybody else in their own way, all of his predecessors that he's gone through, like they all argue.
Even Parmenides would, I think, recognize this, right?
Even being and non-being, they all argue from opposing principles.
If there's going to be change, there has to be contrariety.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it is dialectical. It's also, he opens chapter 5, like as kind of the summation of everything he's just gone through. And then, yeah, he gives another, like a dialectical defense.
And that makes sense because he's laying down first principles for his science, right? So, and especially in natural science, it makes sense that from inductive experience, we would grasp the principle that change requires contrariety, right?
I think that's part of his whole argument is if something's going to, like, even when you just talk about change, it's from something into something else.
And not just from anything, but from an opposite into its other, its contrary.
It has to go from not that to that. Or that to not that. Whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So he talks about, he uses the phrase principles of nature, or translation. He doesn't really ever seem to say like principles of change. Do we think that he means anything different between the two, or is it fine to just think of it as principles of change?
I usually think of it as principles of change. But I
mean, that's how I've always thought about it, but yeah.
Aren't they synonymous? Like to be a physical thing, a natural thing, is to be subject to change, is to be subject to motion.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning here, because I want to know where he actually says principles of nature, that's what he's trying to say or talk about in book 1. I know this is a science of nature, but like started book 2, he says the principles in question must be either, and then he goes on, but he doesn't say the principles of nature. Principles of what? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I think just, it's because he, when he talks about, anything, the principles of becoming.
Yeah.
And if only natural things.
Where's that principles of becoming?
This is.
I mean, that's like 6 or 7, right?
Chapter 7. It's 189b 30 to 190b 7. Because I'm looking at I'll share the commentary. That's where I am. I'm looking at Aquinas' commentary just because it has Aristotle's text. But
because a natural thing is a thing that becomes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a kind of it's in what is it? An inferred
its principles syllogism. Insofar as it is a thing that becomes would be contrariety, I guess. Is that what we would say?
Okay. Yeah, everything he's talking about is stuff that's coming to be.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, as regards, even when we talk about one of these, a simple thing that becomes, complex things that becomes, right? When a thing is said to become something, blah blah, right? I mean, that's all he's talking about. And only natural things become.
Yeah. Fieri. The other question I had was some clarification on the argument for why there must be a third principle in addition to the contraries. So I'm looking at, what is this? 189A30. The first argument that he gives is pretty straightforward. It's more or less just inductive from the fact that he says, well, it just seems like whenever we see contraries acting as principles of nature, that they all seem to be acting on a third thing. all the time.
I think it might be a little bit more than just like, well,
yeah, I know. So that's the first argument that he gives, and that's not the one that I necessarily have trouble with. It's in the next paragraph when he says other objections to the view that it's not necessary to assume a third principle as a substratum may be added. So then he seems to argue that there must be a third because otherwise, like the first principle, or I don't know, one of the first principles would be a predicate of a subject, which is impossible. So I guess I'll just read the thing.
Yeah.
We do not find that the contraries constitute the substance of anything, but what is a first principle ought not to be the predicate of any subject. If it were, there would be a principle of the supposed principle, for the subject is a principle and prior presumably to what is predicated of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I understand that a first principle can't be like an accident of something. But why would that necessarily be the case if there weren't a third principle?
Well, the only principles we have so far are contraries.
Right.
And contraries here are said of something, right?
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, no, I'm dumb. that makes a lot of sense.
As he says,
when we're saying like, okay, yeah. When we talk about a cat,
the contraries don't constitute the substance of anything.
Getting blue paint spilled on it. It goes from being not blue to blue, and the contraries are the thing in the cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
They exist, and especially the privation exists only in virtue of the cat, right? Okay.
All right. That makes that's good.
Thomas kind of draws that out in the De Principiis, chapter 1. He kind of makes all this explicit in just the most wonderful way. I love the De Principiis.
Oh my gosh, dude. I was introducing the first chapter of the De Principiis to some of my students the other day. And I forgot that he used the example of sperm and menstrual blood.
Yeah, that conversation.
Yeah. I was like,
yeah, buddy.
I was like, all right, Mr. So-and-so, could you read the second
They're reading.
Poor kid, dude.
What the shit? What is
it?
How old is this? Are these kids?
Are you not freshmen? Are you teaching freshmen?
Well, so it's all right. It's kind of complicated, but this particular class has freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in it.
Yeah. Okay.
So
they're like, "What the hell? What is it?"
Yeah. Oh man! So that was a fun conversation. Man. They were all just kind of silent about it. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, Garrigou-Lagrange too has a similar, like in one of his works where he's talking about this same concept in the Principles of Nature. He works through again the same, like why there needs to be this third thing that is the substance, the substratum of the contraries. But yeah. Yeah, well, I'm done with my first round. Where's everybody else?
I've had 2 beers and a scotch.
Well, then I'm behind.
Well, that's including what I had with dinner. But.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Phil. Something that I know we had talked about a little bit before, but I'm building out my theology syllabus this semester. And I remember we had talked about the distinction between ethics and moral theology. At least they came up, but I don't remember what we said about it. And, you know, my great temptation is to just give them ethics, you know, with some additional like commandments about, you know, that have been revealed. But is that really the difference? Is that there are additional principles and goods made known through revelation?
I think, the definitive like text I think that explains this really, really well is Veritatis Splendor.
Okay.
So you are dealing you're dealing with separate principles. What makes it a different science? Because in ethics, you're dealing with the end of man as naturally known. Yeah. And so there are certain types then of human behavior that accord with man's natural end. Now, because just as a matter of fact, mankind is created by God with a certain nature, then a great many of the ethical principles are going to overlap with divinely revealed principles. But with divine revelation comes a supernatural end of man. And so it's not just what's then known about reason. It's actually there's something beyond man's nature towards which we're directed, that we actually need something else. This was I remember now the last time we talked about this, we talked about the importance of grace. Like truly, when you talk about moral theology, you're really talking not just about ethics, but you're actually talking about a life of grace with the sacraments. So going to communion, going to confession, you know, frequently, with the aid then of divine assistance to direct oneself, or to let oneself be directed towards one's supernatural end.
Now, whether the ethical guy knows it or not, grace is still operative. So I think the distinction is perhaps more that the student of theology or the Christian knows that grace is operative and knows
and knows the
sources of grace, right? Yeah, of course, right. He knows the end. But just as far as grace goes, right? Yeah. He actually he knows that grace is operative. He knows I can access grace through the Eucharist and through the liturgy, right? And things like that.
But the philosopher, the student of nature, also doesn't know about the supernatural end either. He doesn't know about the beatific vision. And so, but I think that actually, affects the science at the level of principle, right? When you're talking, if I don't know what I'm being directed towards, and I only think it's this end rather than this end, then actually certain of my actions are going to be different.
So what it does is giving us a further end, giving us higher order goods, the way a man of natural law would act as opposed to a student of moral theology might be that sometimes a student of moral theology would, in order to pursue higher order goods, relinquish certain lower order goods. Would there be any case actually of that? Where does
say that again?
So ethics, the ethical man. All right, so the ethical man might go to mass on Sunday instead of trying to think of another good ethical action that he could perform, but he really needs to go to mass or something.
Yeah, okay, that could be a decent example, right? Because the
homeless guy.
Yeah, or
so
something.
The ethical man has no reason to think he has to go to mass, right?
Yeah.
He knows that, you're even bound. So even the ethical man, the student of natural law, knows that he's bound to give worship to God, but he's got no idea that actually looks like something.
Right.
That looks like something very concrete through which he's brought into union with God.
Right.
Maybe to him it is giving money to the homeless man, right? He spends his Sunday not worshiping God, but doing good humanitarian efforts.
What's funny about that is it sounds an awful lot like the old home church kind of Christian. I know I need to worship God, I just have no idea how. And so they kind of make up their own way. I mean, they have scripture or whatever, but that's it.
Yeah.
Everything else they do is on their own.
But the student of theology knows that it's actually through the grace of the sacrament, right? And actually assisting at specifically Holy Mass that one is brought into union with God, and through that act renders right worship to God, more so, not to the exclusion of, but more so than any kind of humanitarian act would.
Okay, so as far as teaching this goes, Sounds like I can still just use,
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of overlap, definitely. Like that's because it's just because it's a matter of fact that mankind is still created by God with our given nature. And so just even our fulfilling of our nature is going to be, to a certain extent, fulfilling of God's will for us. It's moral theology doesn't restrict from ethics, it adds to it.
Yeah, of course, right.
That's all. So if you're teaching moral theology and all you're giving them is ethics, you're giving them too little. They're not.
I'm actually trying to figure what I need to have them read that I don't normally have them read, because I usually cover, I guess, a little bit of moral theology in my ethics class. We certainly talk about, imperfect and perfect happiness and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Really,
I think sometimes maybe ethicists, philosophers, we lose that in St. Thomas's Summa, is that you have to understand that, even though you're now into like question 94, right? And Thomas has left behind questions 1 through 5 a long time ago. That's the underpinning for everything that he's doing. This is all seen in the context of not the natural end of man, but the supernatural end of man. And it's all leading towards right after the treatise on law is the treatise on grace, because having gotten there, he's like, oh yeah, you also can't do any of this without the assistance of grace.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, that's good. Just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything there.
No.
What was the portion of the categories that you guys were saying were like necessary for my students who are going to be reading Aristotle for the first time this semester? I think it was. I feel like I vaguely remember like.
I don't think you need all of it.
I'm definitely not giving all of it. But
1 through 5 is good because that gets you through substance, right? And there's enough in there. There's enough in there that you can talk about the other accidents as you go. Like when he talks about how the most distinctive mark of substance is that it can admit of contraries at different times, right? That gives you a sort of a doorway. And there's plenty of hard stuff in here. Too. Yeah, so maybe like 1 through 5, and then where's the list? He gives at the end of these. Chapter 10. You don't have to read, not the whole thing, I think. Is that right? No, wait. Chapter 9. Yes. Chapter 9, he gives action and affection, and then he gives the list, right? Why? Hang on. Nope, it's not there. Wherever the list is, wherever he gives the list of these.
Yeah, like the official list of the categories or whatever.
They're gonna want that, and you can just tell them what each of them are,
Yeah.
The list is in like chapter 4 or 5.
Oh,
it says that which in no way signifies complexity.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, chapter 4. All right, so there you go. That's
okay.
That's what I'd say anyway.
And then I got one other question, but I'll be back.
All right, I gotta get going soon, Julian.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just say, and Pete, this is I think probably something you could weigh in on, but do you feel like I mean, so Joe, I think, have you read Coughlin's translation of the Physics?
No.
Okay. Well, Pete, have you read this translation of the Physics?
Yes. Oh, wait, okay. But first of all, I thought you were just teaching Latin. What is this other course that you're teaching?
Yeah, well, our philosophy teacher left.
Left?
Yeah, he's going to the monastery. He's going to be a monk.
I see.
So,
that this happened over Christmas or something?
No, it was actually going to happen at the beginning of the year, and then our headmaster convinced him to stay for a semester because he told. Well, I won't get into the whole story, but yeah. So now I'm kind of taking on at least one of the philosophy classes here for the freshmen, and
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's it's pretty exciting.
Okay. But you were going to ask about what translation you should give them?
Yeah, I was because as I was going through this translation, I don't know. I was thinking about maybe taking a look at Coughlin's translation as well to see if it would be a little bit more amenable to high school freshmen.
What part of the physics are you going to have high school freshmen read exactly?
Well, 1-1 for sure, and then probably 7 to the end of book 1, or like 1-7 to the end of book 1, and then some of book 2. Yeah. I mostly just want to get them. I may or may not give them some of the stuff on time, and I'm kind of considering showing them the end as well. I mean, it wouldn't be a ton. Like I wouldn't be. It'd probably be only 5-ish pages per night or something.
I know.
You're gonna kill him.
I brought this up to the group. I brought this up. I think I asked once before, and I think y'all all disagreed with me. But I always thought that, like, St. Thomas's Principles of Nature, I think is much more accessible for students instead of the physics. But
what I like more about the physics is that it raises the questions and doesn't just
sure.
give
I'm
the
like,
answers.
yeah. I'm not. It's not that. I'm just mean like accessibility.
Yeah.
Like reading, like
if you're just trying to get the information out.
Whereas because Aristotle raises the issue and then is kind of like struggling with that question, it's much more confusing.
Yeah, and if they can appreciate the struggle of Aristotle in Physics 1, they've got to be really competent.
Mm-hmm.
Like Physics 1 is hard for me to read.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to your question about translation.
It's funny though that you were posing the Coughlin translation as being potentially easier. That's usually the
I haven't read it before, so I don't know.
Made. I mean, the only difficult thing about the Ross or the McKeon edition is, it's written in kind of like a traditional English style or something. But it's written to be comprehensible by someone who knows English, whereas the Coughlin translation is like this hybrid.
I guess I don't know English very well.
It's like this. It didn't make it all the way into English. It's still like half Greek. It's more in the direction of like word for word, really hard kind of translation. Whereas this one tries to smooth it out, tries to give you, natural sounding sentences. The ideas are still hard, but the language is supposed to be fairly, polished.
I think that's generally true with the Basic Works book, that they took a collection of more reader-friendly translations.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, the Coughlin is for, like, you really want to be sure you're absolutely on Aristotle's, every word, and you don't want any ambiguities taken away. You want it all just as hard as it comes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually read Coughlin's translation. I have it because it's worth having just for the appendices. That's what I've read in it. Did y'all get? It's on my to buy list. He published a translation of the De Anima last year.
Oh, that does sound good.
And so
the translation of De Anima in here is not very helpful.
So it's on my to buy list. I haven't gotten it yet, but
yeah, I haven't read. I haven't gotten it, but I've basically sort of technically read it because I used Jake's old like TAC Coghlan translation of it when I was studying for the master's comps.
Jake didn't give me anything like that.
Well, actually, no. I think Pete, I used yours.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
I just remember. Yeah,
it's like yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Well, I've started a series of books for. I got this one right here. I don't want to talk about this because I'm not ready, but it's a number of scholars that are like Marx is the authentic interpreter of Aristotle when it comes to politics, and so it's like this is interesting, and these are some heavy hitters. And like it's a couple of books now. I'm reading.
What are they hitting? They hitting the bottle or something?
I don't know.
The joint?
Well, one of them's a reader of philosophy at the University of Glasgow. So he might be on that Irish whiskey. I don't know. But it's now a recurring theme. They're like, what Aristotle lays down about economics and the politics is only authentically interpreted by Marx.
Incredible.
So, well, that's
amazing.
Yeah.
Including
impressive
including a number of Catholic scholars. They're like, yeah, Marx is the one that picks up Aristotle and St. Thomas on this. And it's like, well, I don't think that's right, but I don't know.
Oh, I had it all wrong.
Well, I'm still trying to work out my adjustment to Osborne's criticism of my proposal. But in reading now all these people, like this is again, that's the theme I'm finding. They're like, Marx is the one that picks this up. Everyone else messes it up, but Marx picks up Aristotle. It's like, oh, well, okay. So maybe in like probably not even by next week, but maybe in the next 2 weeks, I might then have something to say about that.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna slip out of here, boys.
Yeah, I should probably head out too.
All right. I just got my refill. Damn.
It's been pretty
this is true. We're coming up on about 2 hours.
Terrible on my data here. I'm gonna see if the spike keeps going up after I sign off, if it's like still calculated. But not unreasonable. All right.
Okay.
Good.
All right, cool.
All right, boys. It's good to see y'all. So,
good fun. I'm glad you made it, Pete. I hope you can come regularly and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
right. We'll see y'all next time. I'll send out the link for next week. So.
Cool.
All right.
All right,
boys.
See you guys.
You have a good night.